call this meeting to order. We need to. Better start that over, Nancy.
I didn't quite hear you. What did you say?
I said I'll call this meeting to order. Do I need to start that over?
No, that's
Okay, okay. We'll do the Pledge of Allegiance since we're. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okey dokey. Next on our agenda is responsibilities of the Budget Committee. Who does that? Is that a Dee Dee thing or is that a Trish thing and Trish doesn't know?
You want me to do it or you want to do it? I mean, this is just a review of our budget training. So what we're going to do today is you've already all received the budget document. And then the superintendent is going to review her budget message, which is in the document. And we'll discuss the budget as determined by majority, hear public comment if there is any, and approve the budget and recommend the adoption to the board and approve the proposed property taxes. And if we don't approve, there is the option of having a second meeting next Tuesday.
Okay.
The certification of legal posting, line. So we haven't gotten the affidavit in the mail yet. It comes through the USPS, but we did have it in the pilot on May 7th and 14th and also listed on the website on the 7th. So that we're just still waiting on the affidavit, but that was what was shown in the legal posting. Hey. So now, Trish, it's up to you to.
Yeah, it's my turn
get some
again.
Nominations we do have a chair and
Okay.
vice chair for our committee.
So we need to elect a Budget Committee chairperson. So any nominations or volunteers?
I nominate Nathan Hanscom.
Oh, I second that.
Okay. So it's
There,
been,
I was gonna nominate you.
can I do that part now? It's been moved and seconded to nominate Nathan Hanscom as the Budget Committee Chair. Do I take a vote? Yes.
I maybe
Civic?
ask, is there anybody else?
Is there anybody else? Okay, thank you, Ellen. I love that you helped me because I've never done this one before. Is there anybody else? No, okay. So I'm gonna, you made the motion, so we'll call for the vote. So, Alan,
Absolutely aye.
Janice,
Aye.
Nathan.
Yes.
I don't know her name.
Donna.
Donna, sorry.
Yes.
Okay, Kelsey,
Aye.
Deanne,
Yes.
Sonia. Are you there?
Did you hear me?
Yes, Sonia.
Aye, yes.
And Catherine? I know Catherine was there.
Yeah, she was.
I didn't see.
Okay,
She's not still up there though,
I
right?
don't see her. I don't. Okay, I didn't hear. So move to the next one and we'll grab that later. Okay. And now we'll elect a Budget Committee Vice Chair. Are there any nominations or volunteers?
I nominate Alan.
Any other nominations?
How about a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Any other volunteers besides Alan? No? Okay, so we have a nomination and a second and for Alan Niederfer. So we will call for a vote. Alan?
I'll abstain.
Okay. Janice?
Aye.
Nathan?
Aye.
Donna?
Yes.
Kelsey?
Aye.
Deanne?
Yes.
Yes, myself. Sonia?
Yes, aye.
And Catherine? We'll get her vote later. Okay. Moving
So
on.
Nathan takes over the.
Yeah, so now.
You get
Nathan
to
gets
go over.
Honors.
Want to pass the gavel? Do you want to feel official?
Sure.
Pass it down. Woo-hoo. There you are.
Thank you. Okay, so now that we have a chair and a vice chair, I will throw it over to Dee Dee and Helena for the presentation of the budget.
So the budget message is on page 4 and 5 of your of the big book. The actual budget book. And so I'm gonna go over like an overview of our situation, and then we'll give some highlights and show some more specifics. Dear BHSD community, at BHSD, we believe every student can succeed. With strong relationships, dedicated staff, and a focus on growth and grit, we are building a safe, collaborative learning environment where students are empowered to thrive now and in the future. The current state budget climate. So one thing I would like to say before I read this is there's many things we don't know. So the legislature is still in session. The forecast last Tuesday wasn't good. And so they've lost about $500 million that they were gonna play with and give to different state agencies, education being one. And so whereas we were hoping for almost an $11.4 billion 2-year education budget, we were also hoping on top of that to get paid for more special education students. Now they're telling us that's probably completely off the table. We fortunately didn't budget for the extra special education money. We were just hoping that could save us if we received it, but it doesn't look like we're going to. So that's, and here's the thing, but Oregon budgets on a forecast. So they don't really know. And so it feels, you know, once this budget is, we've gone through it, you guys have recommended, the board approves it, we're probably going to need to change it. So it's really a working document as opposed to something written in stone, at least within the big guidelines. So the Oregon legislature is currently working through the state school funding allocations for the 2025-2027 biennium. The proposed state school fund is 11.36 billion. And so in that 2-year cycle, we'll receive 49% of our allocation the first year and 51% the second.
Elena,
Yeah,
the 11.36 billion, is that the guaranteed amount or that?
no,
it's
there's still,
Okay.
that was
I
the,
thought that was what was happening, but it
Mhm.
said, okay.
they're fairly certain that's where they're gonna land. It was the governor's recommended education budget,
Okay,
but we were hoping it
which
could be
is
more.
$2 billion more than last year, right?
10.1
it was.
It was 10.1, so it's a
Oh,
billion.
last year?
And
Okay, so,
1.2 more.
okay,
So what they're saying is that basically
covers cost of living.
covers roll-up costs and inflation things. And our biggest problem is not the money they give us. The biggest problem is we're losing students, where you have decreasing enrollment, so therefore we get less money. So, yeah. The district anticipates ending the 2025-2026 school year with approximately 1.8 million in reserves, or 8% of total general fund expenditures.
Which is what we have now, right?
Now we have 12 right now.
Oh,
I'll get to that in a minute. It's a planned reduction from the roughly 12% reserve maintained at the end of 24-25. This gradual tapering brings us closer to the school board's long-term target of a 7.5% reserve, supporting fiscal sustainability while minimizing disruptions to programs and staffing. So the 7.5% equals 1 month of payroll and utility bills for us. And these two people here will have to make sure that people get a paycheck, feel that that's a reasonable thing to have as a reserve. Because there could be a time in November, December, if we don't get our payment for the property taxes in time, we would need some place to dip into to pay people. So
was the difference between the 12% that we ended the year with and the 8% that we're going to end 2026 with, is that what we've added to our budget?
yep, so we're gonna spend it. Just like this past year, we spent another $1 million because we had even more. If you
Right.
guys remember, those
Back
of you
up.
who were here a
Yeah,
year ago.
catching up.
And so all of that conservative sort of
savings that the district has done, which as a principal, I was highly annoyed with at times. I've appreciated very much this last 2 years because it's really insulated us from making some drastic cuts.
Or furloughs.
Or furloughs, yeah. The thing about furloughs is that a furlough is when we all take days off without pay. Doesn't solve our problem. We still have decreasing enrollment, so we need to right size our staff.
Right.
And that's really hard. So, yeah. School districts in Oregon are funded based on student enrollment. BHSD continues to experience a slow, long-term decline in enrollment. Fewer students result in less funding, which requires careful planning and ongoing adjustment to staffing levels. The 25-26 budget includes a reduction of 11 licensed positions, including teaching and administrative roles, and 4.75 classified managerial positions. These reductions will occur through a combination of attrition and reduction in force. Looking ahead to 26-27, additional reduction will likely be necessary to keep the district on a sustainable financial path. Two key factors have helped offset financial pressure for the 25-26 school years. We are getting a $750,000 payment from previously delayed forest fees revenues from 2017 to 2021. And so what happened was ODE decided in 2017 to take the federal forest fee money that the state received and spread it on all the school districts in Oregon. Klamath Falls led the charge and said, no, stop. Those belong to forest counties. We are the third largest, we get the third largest amount in the state of Oregon. And so that was significant money for us. And so that's where that 750 comes from. It's a great gift right now, but it's one-time money.
Yeah.
We get to spend it this year and then we don't have it, right? And then also we have the 2.8 million carryover from 24-25, which we're going to use $1 million of. While helpful in the short term, especially in offsetting increased purse costs and declining enrollment, these are one-time funds. As such, the district anticipates the need for an additional 1.7 million in reductions in the second half of the biennium. So, looking ahead, strategic planning for 26-27. The 25-26 budget is designed to gradually taper the ending fund balance, aligning with the board's 7.5 reserve target by the end of the biennium. We anticipate reaching an approximate 8% ending fund balance in 2026. This approach, combined with strategic staffing reductions, supports our long-term fiscal sustainability while avoiding sudden significant program cuts that would negatively impact educational quality and our ability to recruit and retain staff in a competitive hiring environment. We would like to thank you, the school board, district leadership, staff, community partners, and the budget committee for your dedication, collaboration, and thoughtful review of the proposed 25-26 budget. We remain focused on our mission and our priorities, supporting student success by fostering grit, curiosity, purpose, and self-advocacy, investing in staff success through recruitment, development, and retention of high-quality educators, strengthening relationships across our schools, families, and community to create a culture where all students are seen, supported, and inspired to succeed. We will continue to advocate at the state level, innovate locally, and work in partnership with our community to ensure every student has the opportunity to thrive. Thank you for your consideration of the 25-26 proposed budget.
The next contract negotiation.
In a year.
So that'll impact right at the same time too.
Yes, but at least we'll know our revenue. So we can honestly go to the table and say, this is what we have.
Yeah.
If you want more than what we have, which will be a very little, that's going to require more cuts. And that gets interesting and tough. And so, yeah, but we're very grateful we're not negotiating right now. Because
Which was by design, because we,
Mhm.
Elena and team negotiated a 3-year contract last time, so it wouldn't line up with the state.
Because it's really unnerving when you don't know how much you're gonna
Yeah,
have.
definitely.
Yeah.
Is it time for questions? Can I, is it okay to ask a question or
Wait,
wait?
what do you think, Dee Dee? Should we go through our stuff and then do questions? However, whichever way you guys think.
Just overall, when you were talking about the staff reductions that you were having to make, what kind of impact do you foresee that having? Will it increase class sizes? You know, I know you're very careful about
Mhm.
how you make those.
I would say at this point, we have managed to, so like the population at K school has shrunk enough so that one teacher that's retiring, we don't replace that teacher. It really, so we kind of had an extra teacher between first and second grade. And we don't need that with the upcoming kinders. And so that will happen in, the class sizes are about the same at K school. The other thing about the K school class sizes is that we have limits in the contract. I mean, it's, there's not a financial piece, but we do have to sit down with them if we go over. And we might need to provide some additional support if we go over, but right now,
Over the number of kids in the classroom.
yeah. And so right now we have between 80 and upper 90s, so 4 teachers work. So between 20 and 25.
And then as that rolls up to the middle and the high school, what does that look like?
So the middle school is able through 1 reduction in force and 1 resignation, they are gonna be between 23 and 26. So 2 less teachers there. And then at the high school, there's a temporary position that isn't gonna be rehired. And so they have worked on that and their class sizes are probably still the smallest in the district.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Understood.
There's work to be done there, so.
Yeah.
For sure.
And how many did we lose from the high school?
Kids? No, staff.
Okay.
We have 1 that were a temporary position. We're not gonna rehire at the high school. And then we're trying to find a Spanish teacher because we really need one. So if someone knows a Spanish teacher, send them our way. But that's still out there floating too.
That's the challenge of high school is the
Uh-huh.
certification piece.
So is our current Spanish teacher resigning? retiring?
She's retiring.
Okay.
She has offered to come back part-time. She just looked at me. She goes, I can still do it, but I don't want to work on Mondays. And I'm like, Sophie, I'm not sure how that's gonna work.
Why, but I,
You have a sub every Monday.
That was what she suggested. She was good with that. She goes, I'll do all
That's
the planning,
interesting.
but I just don't want to work on Mondays. I'm like, I'm not sure how that's gonna work.
Yeah.
But they're hard to find.
Yeah. The virtual option.
So,
A lot of small districts are getting very creative. with
Just
it.
use Duolingo.
yeah. Well, or French.
It's the certified teacher
You have to
problem,
have-
award credit.
Oh,
Yeah, 2 years
Uh-huh.
in for
You have
college.
to, you have to. Yeah, you do.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
Otherwise,
Mhm.
they have to do it at college.
Yeah. And so, we have some positions that we never hired this year and those we're just leaving. We're not filling those or we've taken them out of the budget. And then we have, some administrative positions and a director position that we're gonna combine. 1 person's gonna do 2 departments and
We
I'm taking
can't
on
hear
another
you over
job
here.
and yeah,
We can't hear you over. I can't hear
you can hear me. Okay, I will speak louder. Yeah.
I saw we took our nurse down to halftime.
No, she is, the nurse is in so that is that's a health aid. And the nurse is in the SIA funding. So you can still, all of the special revenue funds kind of roll together, but she's in there.
Julie's still.
I just saw
Yeah.
her
Just have time.
at 0.5.
Yeah, that's the
Yeah, that's what
classified.
I thought
position.
too.
it's her.
Oh,
her
oh,
aid.
for A.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that too. Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Are we losing YTP?
Mhm.
Okay.
So YTP is funded through Department of Human Services. They are not paying enough for us to have our own employee to do it. They're also very strict on what we can bill for. So we have an employee who we pay well and who has benefits and all those things. And so it's costing us too much money. So they will have to take that over.
So the students will still have some services
Mhm.
just through that agency directly.
Yep, yep. Yeah. It just,
And they will do that? That
they're supposed to.
supposed-
I'm not going to promise that that's going to happen. But yeah. It's not a service we have to provide. We voluntarily took it on and see what we could do with it, so. Yeah. So on the next slide, this is just the overview of, this is what we've got coming in and going out. One of the things you can see in the capital projects, it's only shows 539,000, but what happened last year is we applied for a seismic grant and did not get it. We are gonna apply again. And then we also had the 1.5 million in there for our field and track. So even though it wasn't our money, it was donated, you still have to have the spending authority. So we had it in the full project.
So that $5 million isn't district money all of it.
And not all, right. And then everything else is fairly close to the same. As you can see, like the general fund though, with that 1.2 billion increase state school fund, we're
Yeah, it's exactly the same. I was
still
gonna
at a,
ask that.
yeah.
That's just
So,
the difference of students,
mhm.
essentially.
Difference of students and then less carryover. But it does include that 750,000.
It does that too.
That's in there.
That's in the general fund?
Yep.
Okay.
So I mean, if you took that out, yeah, we'd be even quite a bit less than last year. So some of these financial, so like Helena said, it's all assumption, and we're all sitting here kind of in the dark every day wondering what's gonna change. So you base everything off of what you know best at the time you create the budget. So they continue to say the 11.36 with the split. Well, the biennium, it's still pending in legislature. We'll be paid on so you get paid on the higher of 2 years. So we'll be getting paid on this current year because of the declining enrollment. We anticipate having more students this year than next. Our outgoing senior class is larger than incoming kinders. And then we continue to lose students throughout the year. And then some come back in the beginning, but you know, your overall is the third quarter ADM is what that average comes out to. So you've got to count that reduction. Our LGIP, the local government investment pool, still is getting about 5% interest. So it's right around 300,000, which is nice. The special revenue funds, that's our title, SIA, high school success. We're basing it on flat funding. They're saying it may slightly decrease, and for us, it will because of our enrollment, but we're just holding, because we don't know. We're just using the same numbers that we got for this current year.
If that does happen, Dee Dee, because I know there's several salaries on that high school success one, could that also then impact staffing if you see that?
I think we have enough stuff
Mhm.
in those funds, so we could
salaries
eliminate
with
the
the
stuff and leave
Yes.
the people alone.
So we've thought that through when we built the budget,
Mhm.
is having, you know, some of the indirect, you don't want to take much of the indirect because that is part of your general fund revenue. But there is, you know, if it gets reduced, before we would lose a person, we would lose indirect. But we do have things in there. There's still like some fencing upgrades or door upgrades, cameras. So there are things, and we will know by the time we start ordering, yeah, okay, we'll put a hold on the supplies or consumables
Yeah.
so that we keep our staffing level.
Mhm.
So the projected carryover from this year, we're thinking we'll end with 2.8 million, but we did start with 3.9. So again, this is kind of, so those were the revenues. Now on the expenditures, the same, we kept the buildings with their regular discretionary
Right.
funds. We didn't reduce that this year, but we did get notification utility expenses are gonna increase by 7.5%. The insurance by 18%. And then our staffing expenses, we have an increase, it's 3% COLA for negotiations. And then whoever's, you know, not at the top will also get an additional 4 as far as the certified. And then we did add an additional step for all of our hourly. So if they were at the top, they will still also get, so they're gonna get a 6%. The projecting ending fund balance is 1.8 million. And again, the grants, we just went flat funding pretty much on all of them. There's a new application for a K-12 literacy grant that we are currently working on. And it's gonna be a decent amount, Helena might.
It's a 4-year grant. We had 300,000 the first year and then 150,000 each year for year 2, 3, and 4. And it is really supposed to, you have to spend 16% before kindergarten. And we're playing with the idea of having a transitional kindergarten, having them come in January instead of August. And we just have to find the right kiddos, the ones we need, and have a teacher and an IA for that. And then the rest is divvied up, K-5, 6, 12, but it's supposed to help support literacy across the spectrum. So
More for staffing and not so much like curriculum.
you can do curriculum, but it's really to be professional development for staff and additional staff. Yeah. Not that 150,000 buys a whole lot of staff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was a state grant, right?
That's a federal.
Oh, that's a
grant.
federal. Okay.
That's a federal
I
one.
saw
which
those
makes
priorities
it-
that came out
Uh-huh.
today, and
Uh-huh.
that early literacy is one of the priorities.
Mhm. And it is for the state too. We have an
We have an
early
early literacy.
literacy grant from the state as well, but that's
Yeah.
K-3, and it's only 90,000.
90,000. Yep.
When do you anticipate hearing? their
About the
decision?
grant, we have to turn it in by June 30th. We should know by August, so we'll be able to start rolling. And we qualify to apply, only 50% of districts did, so that's poverty level of our community and our literacy scores, K-12, so.
And again, here, just the same, 2.8 beginning fund balance estimated, ending next year with 1.8. There's that annual revenue, that's general fund only, and by board policy is 1.6. So we just, today we moved money for May payroll, and for this current year, it was 1.4. So we're right pretty close to that. And then as Lena said, if we don't get our taxes in a timely manner, those big ones, or for some reason, the audit doesn't get submitted to the state on time, they will hold state school funds. So you've got to have a little bit of a buffer, just in case.
Is it common for not getting your tax payment? I mean, delayed, is that common?
You have no idea.
And neither do we.
She emails and goes, hey,
Hey, where's
where's
that?
the money?
I think it's happened.
terrifying.
It does happen.
Frequently.
Frequently?
Yes.
Mhm.
Is there a concern of
frightening.
the current county state of things holding it up?
I think they're trying to figure things out, and I think it's really, well, you work there, you know how messy it is. It's messy. And that's all of this, the school districts, right, in the county, so. It's hard, so having some money and having, at least so you can pay people is important. Sure. Yes. So class size remains small and below state average in all grade levels. With the early literacy grant that we, have had this year, we started, a concept called high dose tutoring for grade levels K-3. And the kids stay after school and they work in a group of 1 or 2 with 1 adult. And they do sort of a really kind of a 3-ring circus kind of thing. The kids have a great time and their reading scores are just flying through the roof and it's really fun. So we're gonna do it for 3 weeks in the summer. And we're also going to try to do it more even during the day next school year because it works better than even with a group of 4 when you do intervention.
So with our kids that have to stay later to do that
Mhm.
and the ones that use school transportation,
Mhm.
how does that work?
So we have an activity bus that comes at 4:15. And so most of the kids have parents that pick them up, but we do have a bus that goes, so they pick up. Middle school has an after-school catch-up kind of club where teachers go, the kids can
Keep
get
up
help,
club,
so
yeah.
they pick them up. High school kids can stay and work, and now we have little people too. So it's kind of cool. It's a long day for the little guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I was over there twice the other week and they were just having a great time. So that was fun to watch. One of the things that worries the two of us over here the most is that we had to do a new integrated guidance application, which includes high school success, the student investment account, and early literacy. And they gave us numbers to budget with that we had to turn in. It's actually on our website if anybody wants to see it. That's not the amount of money they're going to give us for those grants. And so we budgeted conservatively and have things we can remove as opposed to people if we need to. But it's unnerving when you don't know. It's just unnerving. The purse increase for the next 2 years for each year is about 750,000 a year in additional increase on payroll.
I was noticing
taxes.
that it was substantial sometimes where it was 3 times more than last
Mhm,
year. That was one of my questions.
Yeah, those are my question.
Why?
Why 393 to 585 or
Mhm.
985?
Yeah.
So we in 2002 and 2004 purchased purse bonds, which was a smart thing to do. How much have we saved over the last 20 years?
Yeah, quite a bit. I don't have that document with me, but millions.
First bonds.
Mm-hmm. So that pays down your rate at purse. And so we bought it at an opportune time when the bond rate was favorable. Our rate went up so much because they are getting to be at the end of their life. In 2027, we're done with those. And our purse rate will probably go from 15 to 30%. It's huge. So one thing we have, which is not going to save us for very long, but we had a superintendent and business manager around the same time, maybe a little later, who decided to put $800,000 in an Edward Jones account to have as a purse fund for the district. And so we have $1.8 million in there. It's just been earning interest. And so that money can be used to offset purse cost eventually when we all on board decide that we want to dip into that, but that is there for the district to use.
It
No.
won't. And every business manager, since I've been in the district office, have come to the board and offered different way. They all are thinking, more money at the beginning, tapering down, less money at the beginning, going up. And so far, we haven't had to touch it. So it's nice just to leave it
Yeah.
alone because we know what's coming in 27, 28. So.
And they're not the financial geniuses that I listened to at a conference said, they're not predicting that purse rates will stabilize or start going down until 2033. That's a long time from now.
Yeah.
So we're approaching a cliff,
Yes,
a financial cliff.
uh-huh. But like the city of Brookings already pays 30%.
30-something%.
And so it's just, we haven't had to do that, but now we're gonna just go.
Because we were only at 8% and we're going to 15.
Yeah. It's an enormous jump.
Upsurge a little.
Yeah, we had a couple
Yeah.
of bonds probably drop off this last year, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, that's still, even though we dip into that, it's gonna be what, a couple years maybe, of-
Mhm.
then you got this cliff,
Mhm.
delayed maybe a couple of years,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
yeah, was that gonna equate to just drastic cuts of PERS eligible staff or?
We're gonna have to make it work somehow. That's the scary part. But I also think
That's
that
reality.
30% of payroll, considering 85% of our budget is people,
Right.
30% is a really large chunk of money. So,
And then we do the PERS pickup, which is another 6%. So that'd be.
yeah.
Yeah.
Is that in the labor contract?
Well,
The
the-
pickup, is that in the labor contract?
Yeah.
Well, the people retiring out of PERS, once they're gone, will the new people coming into PERS have like a lower rate that we're paying into though?
Like, but
Mm.
I'm really disappointed because it was sold to us back when I lost all that great
Yeah.
benefit as a human, right? That it was going to be so much better for the system. I don't know. The difference is what, 3 or 4%?
3%.
It's not enough to change the outcome. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you're talking about going from 15 to 30%, even if we are having more staff retire that were
Mhm.
tier 1 or tier
Yeah,
2.
tier 1 and tier 2 is increasing from 8 to 15, and then observ from 5 to 12 point something, so.
So that's
so
not that
that's not
big of
that
a,
big of a deal.
no. And I mean, we have, Nikki won't mind if I share, but I think Nikki's our last tier, one of our last tier 1 people.
I was gonna ask, how
yeah.
many tier ones do you still have?
Yeah, so they're, and it's not like, I don't know, people that retired 10, 12 years ago, they ended up with more money than they were making. That's not the case anymore. You know, there was assumptions and things they chose to do in their accounts that made that different. Some of us were too scared to do that, so we didn't, but yeah.
So I have a question
Yes.
on page 126, transfer of funds. Because these are transactions with which withdraw money from one fund and place it in another fund without recourse. What does that mean, without recourse?
Dee Dee, that's for you to answer.
You can't change it, no matter what you do. Made a mistake, you're in trouble.
Which page are you on?
126.
It's the transfers.
Yeah, the
Okay,
transfer.
so these
Fund.
are the
Mhm.
transfers that we do into, without recourse.
What does that mean?
What, so
Without
when we put
recourse.
it in, that's the way it's written in the P band. Once we put it in there, that is where it is allocated. So we're sticking money in a facilities fund, 100,000 or whatever that may, it goes on the bottom there. We don't get to take it back out and put it back in the general fund.
Okay.
We're
so
saying
that's
this
what-
is okay to transfer this money in here and it's going to stay
it's gonna stay.
in here.
Okay,
and we're
that's
not
what I
using
thought it
for
meant, but
something else.
was like, I mean,
Cause you can see like we, on those transfers, they're the same as last year. They're a little bit in different spots, but the total is the same. We didn't want to increase, but we do. I mean, the bus is for our bus payments.
right?
Cafeteria is a requirement for our state match. Athletics, we left the same, maintenance the same. And then you can see, we have a little, because we have had some small adoption year for PE and health. We've got a little extra in the textbook fund, so we shifted some of that into facilities, and I don't know how deep we want to get into that, but we're gonna need some roofs, and we've got some things that we need to do.
Yeah.
Maintenance, big time. But other than that, we left it the same. We did not decrease or increase our transfers.
And then we already said, we applied for the seismic grant for the high school sections. We have 2 sections at the high school that still need to be seismically retrofitted, the CTE wing and the science and auditorium hallway. And we did not receive it.
This is the latest one. Okay, I think I've heard this news that we didn't get.
So we just found that out. So that was a bummer.
Yeah.
We're gonna apply again. Hope to get it next spring. So, and that's one we'd held off doing those 2 roof sections because we wanted to do it at the same time as they seismically did that work. But we can't wait
Can't wait
anymore.
longer. This is the 4th time we've been declined. So we're possibly thinking about doing a different area. There's actually 3 sections because of the cost now. It's 2.4 million, but it doesn't get near as much as
It used to.
what we got for the 1 point, what was that? 2 or
Or
something,
something.
yeah.
Is the seismic a competitive grant or is it on
It is.
rotation?
It's competitive.
Okay.
And a lot of it's based on how many people use that section of the school in a given day. So certain areas are easier to get coverage for because more people use it, so therefore more danger. Yeah.
And this last one was only, so it used to be the auditorium with the 400 hallway, but that's not enough anymore. So they just did the 400 hallway. So I'm not sure. We do have a grant, a $25,000 grant that helps pay the engineering cost to do that.
And they do the application
Yeah.
for us, and so that is helpful. And we don't have to pay for it, so there's that. But yeah. All right. Now, any more questions?
On page 18. In regards to the, alternate education. I see that last year we had, the 2,500 and now, this year proposing a little over 58,000. What's that about?
That is, so you gotta love that ESSER money, the art money. We paid for our, Edgenuity, which was our online program with the ESSER money, and it was for 2 years. So it's actually our curriculum for our online. Doesn't necessarily mean it's gonna be Edgenuity, but that's what the 58,000 is now going to have to come out of the general fund, because we have nowhere else to take that out of.
Okay.
The high school is actually testing out 2 different online curriculums to see which one
And-
they want to use.
And is that the software that I
Yes.
noticed a huge
Mhm.
increase on? Okay.
Mhm.
And then what about the Indian Ed? I noticed 0 last year and this year 65.
So I know it says Indian Ed, but in front of that is the other special programs is where I'm coding this to, but that 65,000 is for our students that go to Del Norte. So in prior years, they didn't budget it, and for some reason they didn't bill us. But it's pretty much a wash. If you look under revenue, we get back about 65,000 from them for students we accept into our district. And then we pay them, we just paid them 70,000, but we're estimating by the permissions that we signed off on. So that's what that is.
So Jeff and I freely signed kids back and forth because we have so many parents that live in one place, work in the other, and it works out about
The same.
number of kids it just makes it easier for families.
Have you looked into and considered the ESD's online programming?
It's Edgenuity.
Well, I think there's some choice. I thought there were 2 others that they work with as well.
I'm not sure, but they want $400 a kid.
Okay, so it's not cost effective to send them there as opposed to just do it yourselves.
Unfortunately.
I was curious too, on that same page, about what the tag program was gonna look like this year. I saw there was some
Increase, yeah.
$10,000 in
Increase in there.
supplies, and there was some money in there, and I was curious about, on the alt ed, separate page, it also lists that tag could be part of alt ed, so is tag gonna be K-12? Is it primarily K-5, or what does that look like?
It needs to be K-12. And we've started doing a much better job identifying kids, and so they have tag plans, and so now we have a little bit of funds set aside for them, so, yeah.
Didn't we do some sort of a contract with the TDN, Potawatomi Nation?
Yes,
We
they're
did.
they're
I thought
very
it was-
generous. We just finished. Talawa is giving us $60,000 to spend for kiddos.
Okay,
And so without a whole lot of restrictions, we will probably use some of it for summer school. So we just need to make sure we offer it to everybody that can come, and yeah.
On page 20,
Mhm.
under, looks like item 130, additional salaries. Last year, 93,000 some change. This year, 324,000 and some change.
Again, this is more cleanup. So what that is on the additional salaries is when it's for, we have supervisors and ticket takers, chaperones who work after hours. And so that's part of their salary. It's for additional work that teachers do after and turn in time, we call them yellow sheets, but time cards after hours. But the bulk of that is for our transportation department. So we haven't been budgeting when they take trips for athletics. And so the budget is so tight, we're going in and looking so you look at the actuals, you're like, how come we only did 93,000? And then you start digging in, we need to get the transportation costs in there. And so that's where the bulk of that is for the.
so it's money that
Bus
was
driver makes.
Spent.
for-
was spent last year, but it just wasn't in this
In that
category.
bucket.
Yeah, it was,
Okay.
exactly,
Okay,
just putting it where it belongs.
And athletics trips, we don't get reimbursed for. Any educational day-to-day back and forth to school and any field trip that's tied to the curriculum, we get 70% reimbursement.
does that include choir and band?
Anything that's related to the curriculum,
I think choir and
athletics.
band, yes.
Yes.
But not athletics. So
You're
there's a
right.
gray line,
Okay.
right?
Mhm.
Because choir is a class,
What?
but
Is there a
baseball is
ceiling
not,
to that?
right?
You
Oh,
only get
right,
reimbursed up
okay.
to a certain
And band
amount,
is a
or
class
Right.
and baseball.
70%
Transportation is
endless
70%,
ceiling.
but what you do
Okay.
is at the end of the year, when you do your transportation report, they take all those miles that the drivers drove on
Yeah.
any athletic trip. So last year, out of the 1.4 million we spent in transportation, we had to subtract 170,000 for athletic trips.
Then you turn the
And it's not the
difference in
actual
for-
driver, it's not the actual cost, it's a allocation, they get $3.60 per mile. And then how many miles did you drive on other unrelated educational trips, and then they subtract it.
Do they have to be on days where school is held or just connected to?
Just connected.
Curriculum oriented event?
Mhm.
Okay.
So if you have a robotics class and you have a competition on the weekend, that would be
Yeah.
reimbursable.
Yeah.
Some other districts are interpreting that differently.
Oh, okay.
I've been told that differently. I'm like, that doesn't sound right. The student tuition of $65,000, is that,
Dual credit.
oh, I'm sorry, 53. Oh, that's dual credit?
That's dual credit, right?
Where are we?
Page 53.
I was gonna ask on that too.
Yeah.
53, if it's general fund, that's-
Yeah, probably must be.
Tuition payments.
Because I know too, sometimes with special education, you have to pay a tuition for a student, like
Mhm.
maybe a DHH student that can't be served here.
That's
I
true.
wasn't sure if that
Mhm.
was that or something else.
Yeah.
Oh, that is that, okay, that's that money to Del Norte. So.
Oh,
when-
that's the Del Norte
Yeah,
money.
12
Okay.
yeah, go 12.
Can we go to page 109?
Before we leave this page,
Mhm.
why is this other special program Indian Ed and there's a different Indian Ed from the TDN?
So that, yes, that is gonna be in your special revenue funds.
Because
The
that's a
TDN
grant.
is a grant, and all those go in special. This is all based off of that state school fund and our
Okay.
taxes.
Okay.
You said 109, right, Donna?
Yes, please. And my question is on salaries. So if we look last year, we had 11 FTE, 539,826, and then we're going to 10.03 at 649,440. What,
COLA.
is that all
Cost of living,
COLAs?
Probably.
And that PERS. So it's the
PERS.
COLA and the PERS. Yeah.
Okay, well, I see the PERS where it went from 26 to 80. Okay, all right.
And you can notice that on almost every page.
I
there's a
did.
Reduction in staff,
Mhm.
we still.
Dollars are higher.
Spending more,
Mhm.
yeah.
Is that, so
They stopped doing
maybe,
tuition reimbursement for staff.
No.
Oh, you're still doing it?
Mhm.
Okay.
And in
That's
the
in the
last,
200s also.
in the last contract negotiation, they agreed to, we increased the classified pool. But they agreed if either one of the groups didn't use their, that we would commingle.
Oh,
So, which is helpful because it used to be very small for classified staff. And we've had quite a few people go from IAs to teachers. And so that's been helpful for them.
so if you don't use all the money you've put aside in that pot for that, because I know you try and anticipate who's going to be doing what, then does that stay in that?
Yep,
pot
that's
for the
part of that
following year?
recourse.
Okay.
So
Mhm.
that's one of those, on that page of a transfer, we do 26,000 for certified and 15 for classified.
Nice.
And it stays there, if there's money left over, and there is in the classified this year,
It's a
certified.
huge
usually.
sales point
It
Mhm.
is.
for staff. Not very many districts continue to do that. It's nice.
And staff have gotten smart and they're going to Western Governors University. And it's inexpensive and the whole thing can get paid for with what we reimburse
Wow.
if they're most of the time.
On page 119, in regards to the computer hardware, last year, 100,000, this year, 140, 244, is that to replace computers? Okay.
So, there is a rotation where every eighth grader gets a new Chromebook. And they keep that Chromebook, their own Chromebook through high school, and then we give it to them when they graduate.
Oh,
So we're hoping that the incentive of keeping it will help them keep it
Nice
in
to
good
it.
shape.
okay.
And then we also started using touch screen Chromebooks for kindergarten because the new curriculum, they needed that. And so we're going to do that through second. So part of that money is a new bunch of Chromebooks for the incoming kinders.
And how much is that Chromebook roughly?
About, the kinder ones are a little over 400, and then the high school or the eighth grade is 3 something. They're going up a little bit now, but.
Imagine the same answer, but way back on page 21, but substitute costs significantly higher.
Yes.
Thought I'd call that out.
And it might not be
I
enough.
think it might not be enough.
Really?
Mhm.
Is ESS charging much more per day or
Oh, shoot. We just have a lot of
just
stuff.
a lot of subs?
And paid leave ordinance not helping us.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah, no, I totally.
It's wonderful for people who need
Sure.
it, but it does add up and,
Okay, that's interesting.
I would also say that it seems like people have more health issues than they used to. I don't know if I'm right about that, but it seems like.
I wouldn't doubt
there's-
it. The American diet sucks. It's horrible. It's making us sick.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things that might be making us sick, but yeah, that's definitely one of them.
So about how many seniors do we think are graduating this year?
We have 88 current enrolled and 80 of them are going to walk.
Awesome. And projected kinders, how many of those are we thinking?
We are hoping for 70. Right now we have 60, I think, registered. We're hoping for about 10 more. And they'll be split in 4. So it'll be 15 to 18
Wow.
little ones. But yeah, I think there's still 3 or 4 of the 80 that are working kind of hard and desperately on finishing. Not everybody is.
But there again, and that's another 20 swing, right?
Mhm.
Outgoing 20 more than incoming.
What's the year by year declined average right now? Like
It's
percentage? I know,
Mhm. So in our long range plan, if anybody we had one done this year. If anyone wants to see it, it's actually really interesting reading. One of the things in there is the projection of the enrollment. And by 2033, between 700 and 900
K-12.
K-12. So we really are entering into a place where we need to work together to think about what we want our
Yeah.
buildings to and the district to look like so that it works for our kids. Because the smaller the high school gets, Deanne can speak to this much better than I can. The smaller the high school gets, the harder it gets to offer all those things that we know keep kids at school. And so, and then we are so.
And that make them competitive for colleges
Uh-huh,
too.
uh-huh.
Exactly.
Absolutely, in all, the whole spectrum,
Yeah.
right? And we're not really close enough. Like, it would be great if kids could go to Gold Beach for something that they have and they could come here for something, but with some of our distances, unless we did working stays and Gold Beach days, like it takes a good hour to travel up and
Definitely.
down.
Mhm.
But it would be great if they had welding and we had
Yeah.
construction and we could share.
Are you working with SWAC on some of that? Because they have a long range facilities plan for a multi-use CTE building up there at the
That would
Curry
be great.
campus.
Mhm.
I just
That'd
want to
be
help
good.
Sonia get a word in edgewise.
Oh,
Uh-oh.
Sorry.
I'm sorry, I'm long distance. Is there recourse? Is there anything that happens with students that are, because I'm assuming the decline in enrollment is due to online schools. Is there any follow-up on how those kids are testing and how well they're doing? Is there any?
Well, so here's the unfair part of the world. The online schools do not have the same requirements that we do because they are charter schools, most of them, and they do not have to test the way we have to test.
And they get
So
more money.
that too. And so it's as wonderful as, I mean, my kid back in the day went to an online school for a while because she had some challenges. And sometimes kids need that. That's fine. But I think I'm scared for kids who don't get the social interaction of the world because we are hoping they're going to become productive members. We have about, I think at Baker Web Academy, there's about 105 kids. And we probably have a smattering or 40 or 50 kids in other online schools. And there's 50 kids at the Christian school. So it's really not that many kids total. And we probably have about 50 homeschool kids, but we've always had about 50 homeschool kids forever. And we have homeschool parents who do a fantastic job. And that's their choice. I'm okay with that. And some of them come to us in high school and join up and do the whole piece. So I think we have a lot of what we have is just a declining birth rate. We have less kids. Because if you think about, say, the class of 2015 or something, there was probably about 150 kids coming into kindergarten, and now we have 80. That's huge, and they're not all in, we have maybe 5 kinders online, maybe.
People
People are
cost
pretty.
of living in this area is really high too for young families.
Mhm.
You know, housing.
There's no house.
Right.
Yeah.
On top of it.
Yeah. There's a lot of
I
challenges.
recognize our demographic is aging also, so yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
I think we have the honor of being the oldest, average age in this county is like the oldest of any county in the country.
What?
Yes,
It's in the
Really?
yes.
lower, yeah.
65,
It's
I think.
close, yeah,
Really?
yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
it's my print magazine.
I'm not careful here.
So, yeah, I'm not saying there aren't things we couldn't do to bring some of the kids back. One thing I struggle with is we have kids in online charter schools that are public. We have to allow them to participate in OSAA activities, which I get for the kids' sake. But part of me kind of feels like if you want to do all the fun things, you kind of need to come do the work too.
Mhm.
So I struggle with that. It's not a choice that we have. I at least would like Baker Web Academy to pay their fair share.
Right,
of
if they,
that.
especially if they're making more money, yeah,
Yeah.
right.
So they don't reimburse you for any of those activities?
No, and I love activities and I have no interest or anything in reducing them. They are what keep a lot of kids in school, but they cost us $1,000 per kid per activity.
Wow.
With busing, coaches, and those kinds of things. And so it's not inexpensive. And so in some ways, the kids who come from the outside take away from our kids for other things that we could have. And I get a little protective of.
And your fee is only $85.
Yes.
And that's for
Right.
kids who pay it, who
Mhm.
can pay it.
Right.
Mhm.
A lot probably
Yeah,
don't.
that's
Yeah.
a
No, I-
big difference.
Someone told me that number recently, and I'm the same thing, kind of like shocked by,
Mhm.
you know, when you see the kids that don't attend regular school, but do all the sports and all the stuff. And it's thousands and thousands and thousands, I'm sure, a year.
Yeah. And I just think it's unfair to our kids. Like I would I would have no problem if the school that gets all the money for them just shared with us. I think
Yeah.
that'd be fine. But
Yeah.
Is there something we could do
Yeah, how do you change that?
to make
it's
it
a,
more
it's a
effortless?
legislative, it's a law
Okay.
in Oregon that we have to. One
If they
thing.
make a law, they should give us money.
I know. And I think the other piece is that a conversation I would love to have is we let, especially in the music department, we let online charter school kids come.
Thing there.
And because we were trying, we try to hook them back in, right?
Right?
I would love it if Baker Web Academy would ADM share with us. So pay us for whatever period in the day.
You can charge them.
I know they won't. They are not interested.
We did that before. I
Yeah.
used to send contracts over
Mhm.
to them and they used to pay that.
They
or
used to
we'd
pay?
say no,
Mm-hmm.
they were paying us for that. Well, we had a contract that they agreed to pay, that they would agree to pay. Now, I didn't handle the financial side, so I don't know if it actually
Did the
happened.
check clear? I don't know.
But yeah, because you can always pull that back. You can, and I know the kid side of it, you don't want to do that.
Uh-huh.
But you can always pull that back and say to the parent, if you don't like that, then you tell the Baker Web Academy that they need to pay the bill.
Yeah.
On that, we're giving you notice.
And we
Those
don't.
parents will go up there hot and heavy.
We have some middle school parents who really want, their kids are at Baker Web, but they want to come for one period a day for something. And we're saying no, because
Yeah.
it's not an OSAA activity. We don't have to.
So the only way that Baker said that they would pay it
Mm-hmm.
is if they do not have something comparable to offer for it, and they don't for music.
Okay.
That was why you could say,
Yeah.
you have to pay us, and we would come up with the charge for what that course would be. I don't even.
No, I would
remember
love
what
for
it
them to
was,
pay.
but-
$1,000 per student
Per
per
activity.
activity
Mm-hmm.
per year.
No, per activity.
But per activity per year.
So if
Because
you're in
we,
3 activities, that's $3,000 in a year.
Right. If the kid
Right.
did
So if they're
basketball,
doing
baseball,
basketball, base, yeah, so
Yeah.
it's $3,000 per student per year.
If they did 3 activities.
but maybe
Yeah.
they did band and,
Right,
there could be
right,
4 or
right.
5 things.
Yeah.
Right, okay, but it's per year, not
Yeah.
per every time they go to a
no,
practice or a
no,
game.
it's all
per
the,
season
Oh
or
my
per
gosh.
activity.
I want to
Yeah.
Do you
play.
have like a number off the top of your head of how many kids are enrolled in an online or homeschool that do come and do at least one activity?
I would have to count. I would say there is, how many were there on the softball team, Donna? Do you know?
I was just looking to see if they won, and they did.
Oh, they did.
Oh,
Oh, yay!
yay.
Yeah.
Honestly, I couldn't tell you, because we've got, yeah,
There's at least 3 on the softball team as an example.
Yeah.
And I'd say cross-country, it's like 80% of the team.
Yeah, that's true, huh? Yeah, it's a
Is
lot.
what? Is-
For
Oh,
cross-country.
really?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Not regular attending students.
Wow.
I don't know
It's a
that
small
it's
game.
discussed
Really
either. I,
small team.
Yeah,
Yeah.
But, yeah.
it's, and we want to offer things for kids. That's what we're
Alright.
here for, but I do feel like we should be careful with.
You know, I was talking to Lucci, I gave him a ride home from the Rotary Conference. And he was saying that in Argentina, he's a Rotary sponsored foreign exchange student from Argentina. And he was saying that the Argentinian schools offer no sports, no music, no band, but they are all offered year round by the city. So they have year-round baseball, year-round
it's very, I think,
soccer,
European,
year-round
Anywhere but
basketball.
American model, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like that. It was like that when I grew up too. We had PE in high school,
Yeah.
but everything else is intramurals at city or outside organizations that do the sports. If you want to read something interesting, look at what Iceland is doing with their kids. Iceland decided that their kids weren't going in the right direction. It was really going off kilter. And so school is school, school's education. And then cities and counties picked up, they built hockey rinks, football fields, and they have activities galore.
Mhm.
And it's just really cool. And there's something for everybody.
And I
to
bet
do.
their grades are
Uh-huh.
way up there now.
But they all kind of participate,
Yeah.
and it's just kind of a thing. So it's a pretty cool example.
Sonia, did you have anything you wanted to add? I heard you start to say something a minute ago, but maybe you got cut
my,
off.
my eldest has gone to Baker Webb and will be back for high school. But I wasn't aware of the cost of. I was never. Well, obviously they're not gonna tell me that that they're not paying the school money, but they always sold it as part of the school for her to be able to participate in these activities. So I think maybe some education might, if we could get that through. Had I known, I would have advocated differently, because I didn't recognize that. So it might be good for some parents to find out. Just to, yeah, I don't know how you do that, but to get that word out.
No, I agree. And sometimes in students' lives, it's the right thing to do. It just is. So.
With the seismic grant that you're applying for, and the repairs that need to be made, is there a way to coordinate? Are there any insulation or any sort of weatherization upgrades with that? Because there might be some funding through the co-op for rebates.
Yeah, we use those pretty frequently. Like we put in new air conditioning units. And we got quite a bit of.
We got 100,000 back. That's what paid for our gym floor at the middle school. this
Yeah, I think it
past
was, yeah.
year. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yep, Jess looks for that, for maintenance guy when he's going out for bid.
Yeah.
I did have one question on the school resource officer. I know that's an intergovernmental agreement there. Is that year to year, or do we have a multiple
No,
year?
it's year to year.
Mhm.
And we have, it's been 50-50 split with the city. We whined a little bit because we really don't have any money. And so we were gonna talk about splitting it 9 months out of the year when we're in school 50-50. But then the county stepped in because the county has opium settlement money. So it's gonna be 50% is the city, and then the county and us are splitting the other part. The county's putting in almost $20,000 towards our part, so.
Mhm. So most of that $84,000 is a payment to the city to
Mhm.
fund. the-
And it's gonna be more like 65
Yeah.
because of the new
Right.
That's in
intergovernmental.
yeah, we
Yeah.
have, it. It's not signed yet, but it's in the works.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was encouraging. I
Uh-huh.
had seen that, so it's one of
Yeah,
the
no,
reasons I
we
asked.
enjoy a very good relationship and it's helpful. In a year, it might get tricky, but we'll do it as long as we can.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think it's an important
Mhm.
position
Agreed.
to have around.
Yep.
Well, I think we all agree that the most important thing above education, above teachers, whatever,
Mhm.
the safety of our students.
Mhm.
If they're not safe, they're not gonna be here. They're not gonna come here.
Now, one thing we have to fix safety wise is we have a lot of we did a tech audit and we have a lot of different levels of cabling for internet service and it really needs to be fixed. So we're gonna see if we can't figure that out. And then we really need to work on our door locks, our fire alarms, our burglar alarms. We have a company coming in 2 weeks. 2 weeks. To walk through with us. I'm a little scared what they're gonna tell us numbers wise. There's a federal grant out there. It's called the COPS grant. That can give you close to 400,000 for safety improvements. So we'll see. We'll see what the number is, see if they can help us write the grant and yeah, go from there. But we do need to do some of that. We have the, glass doors and the foyers that are, you can lock and all that, but the automatic door locks, I wouldn't say are working very well.
How often do you have drills?
We have, you have to do drills by Oregon law a certain amount, so we have to do fire drill every month, we have to do a lockdown drill every quarter. We've started to switch our approach to active shooters. So Ray and I have actually been training staff on how to react in an active shooter. And so we're gonna start training the kids on that in the fall, and it's basically going from hiding in a corner and being a victim to picking things up and throwing it at people if they come in and they're not doing something.
That'd be a fun drill.
We kind of had this, the high school staff had this moment at the end when they go, okay, they're just gonna throw stuff at people that walk in the door. Said, we might have to talk about that.
Maybe you should get the leadership kids, at high school, to help with that. Because involvement and all that helps them learn as well.
Yeah, but it's refreshing. You feel better when you're done with that training simply because it's more of a fight piece than a just have. And we've told them for 20 years to cover in the corner and
Yeah,
just
hide
sit
under
and
your
wait.
desk.
Mhm.
When you were talking about the internet services, the tech services,
Mhm.
I'm not real clear on what you're saying. Are you saying that throughout the year?
Throughout all the buildings.
And the years, we've
Uh-huh.
got this unit, this way of doing things, and then we've upgraded to this unit, so now we have 6 or 7
Huh?
ways, okay, that
And we have cables.
everywhere.
Yep, you got it.
Yeah, okay.
So it needs to be cleaned up
Yeah.
and then we just need a drop in each room.
Mhm.
Some things that are wireless right now probably shouldn't be.
Mhm.
And some things that are
Wired.
wired should be wireless. And so there's just upgrades to be made to. the
Yeah, that's
system.
another area to make sure you're prioritizing safety
mhm,
these days
mhm.
now
Yeah.
as well, so.
Mhm.
Okay, we've asked you guys a lot of questions. Do we have any more discussion about the budget? Okay, so I would like to move into public comment. Nancy, did you receive any public comment via email or any other forms message or anything?
received any over email to me. Unfortunately, our board chair is not here tonight to double check with him, but, and then you'll be starting a blue slip, obviously, because we have no audience here today. So as far as I know, we have not received.
Okay, yeah, public will have chance to comment at the budget hearing as well, so. Okay, so moving on from public comment, looks like we are ready to entertain a motion for an approval of the budget.
I'll make a motion to approve the budget.
Okay,
I'll second.
Julie, there's on the second to last page of the.
Oh, we gotta read it.
Notes, there's some.
I got it. Okay, I move that the Budget Committee of Brookings Harbor School District 17C approve the proposed budget for the 25-26 fiscal year in the amount of 33 million, yeah, $52,494.66.
Very precise.
Just to be,
You have a second? Who was it?
I second.
Donna.
Thank you,
Donna.
okay, so, hearing a motion and a second, I'll call the vote. Alan?
aye.
Janice?
Aye.
Aye for me. Donna?
Yes.
Kelsey?
Aye.
Yeah.
Yes.
Trish?
Aye.
And then we have Sonia
Aye.
I'm here too.
and
There's-
Catherine.
There's Catherine.
Aye.
Sorry, Catherine, you weren't showing up on the screen and you've been quiet, so.
That's okay. Most of the questions I think about all the questions I had were asked, so it's been working out for me.
Well, we're glad to know you were with us. Okay, so we also need to make a motion to impose the taxes.
Do we need a vote first?
We just did.
Oh, okay, sorry.
I
So that-
move that permanent tax rate of $3.2494 per 1,000 value be levied in support of the general fund.
I'll second that. And is that the same as last year? It
It's
never
just
changes?
automatically set, yeah.
It never changes unless we do a bond, is that it?
Bond's additional, but that's
A
for
bond
a
would be
different purpose. It
additional.
can't be for general fund.
Well,
And that tax rate is set by law, right?
Mhm.
And it
But-
would have to be changed with the vote by
Mhm.
all the members of
The
the
district.
district.
so it's not the levy or the bond is something different.
Right.
Mhm.
I mean, because if it's the same, I mean,
That's the predicament that
Our state is
entities
in,
have
yes.
with their budgets these days, yeah.
At least the
I
assessment
mean, it
values
seems it should
decrease.
go up a little bit.
Well, they do because the assessment values go up 3%
Mhm.
each year.
Yeah,
So
the
that number
total.
gets bigger.
Oh, okay,
But
Right.
it's also
But
capped
then it
by the
comes to-
state plan, right?
Right.
No
So
state-
So the more we make local, the less we get from the state.
Right.
Because it's an equalization
so
factor.
it doesn't matter.
Right.
kind of.
No, I
Good
think,
answer, Jeannie.
I think
Good
people who
answer.
pay $7 per thousand in Portland probably don't like us much. Because we take some of their money that way, but
Oh.
yeah.
So we had a motion and a second. So Alan?
Aye.
Denise?
Aye.
Aye for me. Donna?
Yes.
Kelsey?
Yes.
Aye.
Okay, and to the Zoom, so I'll start with Catherine
Aye.
and Sonia.
Aye.
Well, okay, it looks like we've come.
I
to
can do the
end of
next
our-
steps if you want to. So the next step is that the Board of Directors will have a budget hearing and board meeting in June. So the regular June meeting, and then you will then have recommended for them to adopt the budget, but they actually adopt it. And then July 1st, the budget year begins. And we get to file our budget with the county recorder. So, yeah. And I just like to thank everybody for being here.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you all.
And if you have any other questions, don't, just call us. Come see us.
Yeah,
Yeah.
tough thing to do, and it's gonna be hard again next time.
Yeah.
Bad.
To write letters to senators about the academy.
Yeah, really.
Thank you for Harry for that.
Thank you.
All right.
Appreciate that.
I will adjourn this meeting at 6:55. Yeah.
Nice.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye,
you.
bye.
Bye, Catherine.
Thanks, Catherine and Sonia.
Thank you.